Have you noticed more empty storefronts in your town? A quiet but massive shift is underway across America's retail landscape in 2025. Major chains that have been part of our daily lives for decades are now closing locations at an alarming rate. This isn't just about a few struggling stores. It's a nationwide trend driven by economic pressures, changing shopping habits, and rising operational costs that are squeezing even the biggest names in retail. From your local pharmacy to major department stores, no one seems immune. In this video, we're counting down 10 major retailers shutting down stores across the country. We'll explore why this is happening and which iconic brands are disappearing from our communities. Stay tuned to see which chains are on the list. The results may surprise you. 10. The discount dream collapses. Big Lots' final chapter. For generations, Big Lots stood as a quiet pillar for America's budget-conscious families. It was the dependable destination where furnishing a home didn't mean taking on overwhelming debt. 10. The discount dream collapses. Big Lots' final chapter. For generations, Big Lots stood as a quiet pillar for America's budget-conscious families. It was the dependable destination where furnishing a home didn't mean taking on overwhelming debt. A deeply discounted sofa, an affordable rug to brighten a hallway, or seasonal decor to celebrate the holidays. These were the small comforts that made a house feel like a home without straining a family's finances. This reliable image, however, began to crumble under immense economic pressure. And by 2025, the brand that helped so many households survive was fighting for its own life. The collapse was not just a business failure, it was a reflection of a wider economic crisis hitting its most loyal customers. The decline accelerated dramatically in 2024 when Big Lots initiated a massive wave of store closures, shuttering more than 500 locations in what became one of the most significant retail contractions of the year. This desperate move was a prelude to an even more dire announcement: a Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing and a strategic plan to liquidate its remaining national footprint. The irony was stark and painful. A company built on the foundation of providing value and discounts was ultimately undone by an economic environment where its own operational costs became unsustainable. The core issue wasn't a sudden consumer shift away from affordable goods, it was that the very definition of affordable had changed. The shoppers who once depended on Big Lots were now facing unprecedented financial strain themselves. As inflation drove up the costs of rent, utilities, insurance, and global shipping, Big Lots was caught in an impossible position. It could no longer absorb these rising expenses without passing them on to a customer base that had no more financial flexibility. The result was a dramatic shift in consumer behavior. Shoppers who once browsed the aisles for furniture and home goods, filling their carts with discretionary items, were now making calculated, necessity-driven purchases. A trip to Big Lots transformed from a treasure hunt for bargains into a surgical strike for essential items like paper towels or a single affordable household product. The small, joyful purchases that had defined the store's appeal vanished as household budgets tightened to the breaking point. Inflation didn't just erode profit margins, it extinguished the simple pleasure of bargain hunting for millions of Americans. In community after community, the disappearance of a Big Lots store is felt as a profound loss, leaving a large, empty retail space and a void in the local economy. 9. When a dollar is no longer enough. The Dollar General paradox. Dollar General was long perceived as the economic safety net for working-class America. Its thousands of stores, often planted in rural towns and urban neighborhoods overlooked by larger retailers, represented a promise that a few dollars could still secure dinner, cleaning supplies, and a sense of stability. For more than a decade, the company's growth was relentless, with new stores opening at a breakneck pace, sometimes multiple in a single day. But as 2025 unfolds, the very business model that fueled this expansion is facing a harsh reality. When the cost of living becomes crushingly high for its core customers, even the promise of cheap begins to lose its meaning. The low-price model is reaching its limit, revealing a painful paradox where the communities most dependent on these stores can no longer sustain them. Early in 2025, Dollar General announced the closure of approximately 40 underperforming stores, a mix of its flagship brand and its newer, trendier offshoot, Top Shelf. While this number may seem modest compared to its vast network, it signals a deeper, more alarming trend that executives have begun to acknowledge. Shoppers are visiting less frequently, and when they do, their baskets are lighter. Discretionary items and impulse buys, once a significant source of revenue, are now being left on the shelves. The typical customer is walking out with only the barest of essentials: a loaf of bread, a bar of soap, a box of cereal, and often only if the price hasn't crept up from the week before. The lower-income households that form the bedrock of Dollar General's customer base are the same ones being hit hardest by soaring rents, utility bills, and grocery costs. The common refrain that a dollar store doesn't feel like a dollar store anymore has become a stark indicator of widespread economic distress. Inside many of its remaining stores, the signs of strain are impossible to ignore. Locations are frequently operated by a single employee per shift, a lone individual tasked with running the register, stocking shelves, cleaning, and providing security. This skeleton crew approach leads to visible consequences: half-empty shelves, flickering lights, and aisles cluttered with unpacked inventory. These are not merely signs of mismanagement, but symptoms of a business model stretched to its breaking point. While Dollar General is not on the verge of a total collapse and continues to open new stores in more prosperous areas, the closures expose a troubling truth. The brand is retreating from the very communities where its presence was once a lifeline, revealing that its low-price strategy can no longer withstand the economic pressures squeezing its most vulnerable customers. For decades, the vibrant, glowing sign of a 7-Eleven was a beacon of modern life. It symbolized unwavering convenience, a promise that no matter the time or place, essentials were always within reach. It was the trusted pit stop for night shift workers needing a caffeine boost, the critical resource for a parent needing late-night medicine, and often the only light on when the rest of the world was asleep. This icon of American convenience, however, is now dimming. By 2025, a quiet but steady retreat is underway, with closures disproportionately affecting the neighborhoods that have come to rely on its around-the-clock presence. The brand that defined accessibility is now facing the hard economic truth that perpetual convenience comes at a cost that is no longer sustainable. In late 2024, 7-Eleven's parent company, 7 & I Holdings, announced its intention to close approximately 444 stores across North America, marking one of the most significant contractions in the convenience store sector in recent history. The drivers behind this decision are a familiar cocktail of modern economic woes: escalating operating costs, skyrocketing insurance premiums, and a troubling rise in crime that makes 24-hour operations increasingly risky and unprofitable. Franchisees across the country have reported unsustainable levels of shoplifting, with some experiencing dozens of thefts each week. Concurrently, finding employees willing to work the difficult and often dangerous overnight shifts has become a monumental challenge. The direct impact of these pressures is visible on the streets. Stores that were once open 24/7 are now reducing their hours, closing their doors at midnight for the first time in their history. This retreat represents more than a simple business adjustment. It signals a fracture in the very concept of limitless convenience upon which so much of the modern American lifestyle was built. The economic equation has shifted. The combined costs of electricity, staffing, insurance, and security now frequently outweigh the profits generated from midnight coffee runs and early morning snack purchases. In many urban and low-income neighborhoods, the closure of a 7-Eleven is not just an inconvenience, it is destabilizing. For seniors who depend on it for accessible groceries, families needing emergency items like baby formula, and workers reliant on its late-night services, the loss of their local store creates a significant gap in community resources. The lights that once symbolized safety, reliability, and constant availability now flicker with uncertainty, leaving behind darker, less secure neighborhoods and a sobering question about the future of 24/7 accessibility. 7. The tech showroom fade. Best Buy's strategic retreat. For years, Best Buy was the ultimate destination for tech enthusiasts, a place where cutting-edge technology came to life. Walking into one of its stores felt like entering a futuristic playground, with walls illuminated by high-definition TVs, immersive audio rooms, and rows of sleek gadgets. It wasn't just a store, it was an experience. Families made weekend trips to explore new tech, and teenagers dreamed of owning the latest gaming consoles. Best Buy was more than a retailer, it was a cultural hub. By 2025, however, this vibrant experience is fading. Best Buy is facing a dramatic shift in consumer habits, forcing the company to rethink its physical presence. Since 2020, the company has closed dozens of locations annually, including 24 stores in fiscal year 2024, with another 10-15 closures planned through. These changes reflect a broader trend. The big box retail model is becoming unsustainable in an age where online convenience dominates. The challenge isn't a lack of demand for technology. Americans are more dependent on their devices than ever. The problem lies in how people shop. Increasingly, Best Buy stores are being used as showrooms, where customers test products in person but purchase online from competitors like Amazon, often for a lower price and faster delivery. Maintaining massive 40,000 square foot stores with high operating costs, utilities, insurance, and wages for skilled staff has become untenable. This shift hits older demographics especially hard. Many rely on in-store guidance when making big purchases, like computers or appliances. Fewer stores and reduced staff mean these customers often leave without the help they need. Once bustling showrooms now feel empty, losing the magic that made them special. Best Buy's pivot to smaller stores, online sales, and fulfillment centers is a survival strategy, but it marks the end of an era. The decline of these tech sanctuaries symbolizes a loss of the shared physical space where people once explored the possibilities of tomorrow. 6. The sandwich giant stumbles. Subway's massive contraction. Subway was once the king of fast food, dominating the landscape with over 27,000 U.S. locations at its peak. Its promise of quick, customizable, and seemingly healthy meals made it a go-to option for millions. The smell of freshly baked bread, the clatter of sandwich bins, and the familiar greeting, "What can I get for you today?" were universally recognized. But by 2025, Subway's footprint has significantly shrunk. In 2024 alone, the chain closed over 600 U.S. stores, bringing its total below 20,000 for the first time in decades. Since its peak in the mid-2010s, Subway has shed over 7,600 locations, a retreat larger than the entire footprint of some competitors. This rapid decline highlights deeper issues beyond typical market challenges. Operational struggles and shifting consumer preferences have fueled Subway's contraction. Customers frequently complain about declining quality, stale bread, limp vegetables, and smaller portions. Aggressive expansion strategies also backfired, with franchisees opening stores so close together they cannibalized each other's sales. This led to razor-thin profit margins, leaving little room for franchisees to invest in improvements. Meanwhile, consumer tastes have evolved. Fast casual chains offering fresh, artisan-inspired ingredients are capturing the modern diner's interest. Subway's Eat Fresh slogan, once revolutionary, now feels outdated in a world where fresh has new standards. On top of this, the chain has lost its emotional connection with customers. What once felt like a neighborhood sandwich shop now feels corporate and transactional. Subway's parent company is working on a reinvention, introducing streamlined menus and remodeled stores, but turning the tide won't be easy. For now, the closed stores serve as stark reminders that dominance in numbers doesn't guarantee longevity. 5. The pharmacy desert crisis. Walgreens' historic downsizing. For decades, Walgreens was more than just a drugstore. It was a trusted community resource. Whether you needed a prescription, a quick grocery item, or advice from a pharmacist, Walgreens was a reliable presence in neighborhoods across America. Its red script sign was a symbol of health and convenience, especially in underserved rural and urban areas where it often served as the only accessible healthcare provider. But by 2025, the Walgreens we knew is changing. In 2024, the company announced plans to close approximately 1,200 stores over 3 years, with 500 closures occurring in 2025 alone. This represents 14% of its total U.S. locations and highlights the growing challenges facing the traditional pharmacy model. The reasons for these closures are complex and multifaceted. Rising rents, surging insurance premiums, and reduced reimbursement rates from pharmacy benefit managers have made the business of dispensing medication far less profitable. Labor shortages and wage increases for pharmacists and technicians have compounded these financial pressures. Additionally, theft has become a significant issue, forcing Walgreens to lock up everyday essentials like toothpaste and detergent behind plexiglass. This fortress retail approach frustrates customers, turning simple errands into drawn-out ordeals. Combined with understaffing and aging stores, this creates an unpleasant shopping experience, driving away even loyal patrons. The closures have far-reaching consequences, particularly in rural areas where alternatives are scarce. The loss of a Walgreens often leaves behind a pharmacy desert, where residents must travel 20 miles or more to fill prescriptions. Digital solutions like online refills aren't always practical for older customers who prefer face-to-face interactions with pharmacists. For many, a pharmacy is more than a place to pick up medication, it's a source of trust and guidance. Walgreens describes its downsizing as a strategic reset, but for the communities affected, it feels like abandonment. The closures leave behind empty buildings and a growing sense of uncertainty about where to turn for essential healthcare. 4. The end of an era. Macy's fades from the American mall. For generations, the name Macy's evoked more than just a place to shop. It summoned a sense of occasion. It was an institution woven into the tapestry of American life, a place where memories were made against a backdrop of sparkling holiday displays and gliding escalators. Families made annual pilgrimages for back-to-school shopping. Teenagers nervously bought their first interview suit there, and the iconic red star sign glowing over city streets was a symbol of urban sophistication and aspiration. Macy's wasn't merely a retailer, it was a cultural landmark, a ritual of growing up and the anchor that held countless American malls together. By 2025, however, that cherished tradition is dimming, its light fading like the last embers of a bygone holiday season, leaving a void that is both physical and emotional. The shift from prominence to retreat was starkly confirmed in early 2024 when Macy's unveiled a sweeping restructuring plan, bluntly titled A Bold New Chapter. This new chapter involves closing a significant portion of its stores. The plan calls for the closure of 150 underperforming locations within 3 years, with 66 of those stores scheduled to shut their doors for good in 2025 alone. This is not a minor surgical trim, but a strategic withdrawal from entire regions, suburbs and downtown districts where Macy's once reigned as the primary commercial draw. In community after community, the closure of a Macy's store triggers a domino effect, diminishing foot traffic and imperiling the smaller retailers that depend on its gravitational pull. The departure of an anchor store of this magnitude often signals the beginning of the end for the mall itself. Inside the stores that remain, the signs of decline are palpable. The once bustling floors now feature wide, empty aisles and sparsely stocked shelves. Clearance racks, once confined to specific corners, now sprawl across entire departments, a constant reminder of unsold inventory. The lighting, which used to feel warm and inviting, now seems dim and tired, casting a melancholic pall over the shopping experience. Employees describe the atmosphere as somber and quiet, more like a museum than a vibrant commercial hub. One former worker recounted the poignant moment of helping take down the store's iconic sign, reflecting that it felt like America was losing a piece of itself. The reasons for this decline are a familiar litany of modern retail woes: the relentless convenience of online shopping, the crushing weight of rising rents and labor costs, and a consumer base that now scrutinizes every discretionary purchase. As Macy's transforms, its old buildings are finding new life as apartments, offices, and fulfillment centers, a practical but poignant symbol of how the spaces of American aspiration are being repurposed for a more pragmatic age. The grocery giant's squeeze, Kroger's battle for the American kitchen. Kroger has long stood as the dependable workhorse of American grocery shopping. For millions of households, it is the starting point of the weekly routine, the familiar destination for fresh produce, pantry staples, and last-minute dinner ingredients. In suburbs and mid-sized cities across the nation, Kroger is more than just a supermarket. It is an anchor of daily life, a constant and reliable presence in a rapidly changing world. Its aisles have been the backdrop for countless mundane but essential family moments. However, as 2025 unfolds, even this grocery titan is feeling the immense pressure of an economy where every cost is rising, and consumer loyalty has become a fleeting concept. The foundations of the traditional American supermarket are being tested like never before. While the company's top-line reports may still show modest growth in sales and profits, a storm of economic headwinds is brewing just beneath the surface. The pressure is coming from all directions. Labor costs have climbed significantly amid a tight job market, while expenses for utilities and insurance continue their upward trajectory. Persistent food inflation and volatile freight costs are relentlessly eroding profit margins, making it harder to maintain the low prices that customers expect. A critical blow came when the company's ambitious plan to merge with competitor Albertsons, a massive $25 billion deal intended to create a more efficient and competitive supermarket network, was blocked by federal regulators over antitrust concern. What was meant to be a strategic lifeline has devolved into a period of uncertainty, leaving the fate of hundreds of stores in limbo. In response to these pressures, Kroger has initiated a campaign of quiet consolidation and closure, trimming its portfolio in states like California, Illinois, and Washington. These individual store closures may not generate national headlines, but they leave a familiar and depressing scar on local communities. Vast, empty parking lots, shuttered automatic doors, and now hiring signs left to fade in the sun. Inside the stores slated for closure, the decline is visible months in advance, with understocked shelves and a general sense of neglect. Shoppers are feeling the shift in their wallets and their habits. Middle-income families, once weekly regulars, are now making fewer trips, carefully calculating the cost of gas and the price of every item in their cart. Many are defecting to hard discount chains like Aldi and Lidl, while others are shifting their spending online to save time and resist the temptation of impulse buys. Even loyal, longtime customers express a shared sentiment. The weekly grocery run has become a more expensive and less rewarding task. Kroger is not on the verge of collapse, but it is contracting, rethinking, and fundamentally tightening its belt, signaling that even the most essential retailers are not immune to the economic anxieties squeezing the American consumer. 2. When fast food is no longer fast or cheap. For the better part of a century, fast food was the unofficial fuel that powered American life. It was the solution for time-crunched families, the late-night meal for shift workers, the reliable pit stop on long road trips, and the simple joy of a childhood weekend treat. A quick burger, a cheap fountain soda, and a menu that was the same in every town. Fast food was never about gourmet dining, but it was about unparalleled convenience and affordability. It perfectly fit the rhythm of a nation on the move. By 2025, however, that rhythm is breaking. The promise of fast and cheap is cracking under the weight of economic reality, and the cultural dominance of the fast food industry is facing its most significant challenge in decades. The most profound change is the most basic one. Fast food is no longer cheap. Between 2019 and 2024, menu prices at major chains like McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's skyrocketed by approximately 40%, a direct result of soaring labor costs, higher prices for key ingredients like beef and potatoes, and the most stubborn inflationary period in a generation. A meal that once felt like a budget-friendly indulgence is now routinely pushing $10 or $12 per person. This price shock is fundamentally altering consumer behavior. Families who once considered a weekly takeout night a given are now treating it as a special occasion. Young adults who grew up on the dollar menu now find that the value proposition has all but vanished. The economic foundation of the industry, its appeal to budget-conscious consumers, is eroding. This shift is inflicting real pain on the industry. Across the United States, hundreds of fast food locations, from big-name brands to smaller regional chains, have quietly closed their doors as customer traffic slows and operating expenses climb. Franchise owners find themselves caught in a vice, with electricity bills, rent, and insurance costs surging, while customers scale back their orders, opting for single items instead of higher-margin combo meals. Even the frantic rollout of $5 meal deals, a desperate attempt to win back disenchanted diners, has failed to fully reverse the trend of declining foot traffic. But the erosion is not purely economic, it's also emotional. For many Americans, the soul of the fast food experience has been lost. The process feels increasingly automated and impersonal, a sterile transaction conducted through a kiosk or a mobile app. One longtime customer captured this sentiment perfectly. Taking my kids to McDonald's used to feel like a treat. Now it just feels empty. That fading sense of joy of a simple ritual becoming a soulless exchange is reshaping how the country eats and feels about its most iconic food brand. The Colossus trembles, Walmart and the future of retail. For half a century, Walmart has been more than a store. It has been the undeniable center of gravity for everyday American life. It is the one-stop destination where families buy their weekly groceries, where parents flock for back-to-school supplies, and where retirees walk the expansive aisles each morning as a part of their daily routine. In countless small towns and rural communities, the local Walmart is the economic heartbeat, providing essential jobs, generating a significant portion of the local tax base, and driving nearly all consumer foot traffic. Its presence or absence can define the economic vitality of an entire region. But as 2025 unfolds, even this retail colossus, a corporation of almost unimaginable scale, is showing signs of strain from the seismic forces reshaping the American landscape. Despite its staggering annual revenue, which exceeds $600 billion, Walmart is grappling with a silent but escalating threat: retail theft. Organized retail crime and routine shoplifting have grown from a manageable business cost into a critical financial drain. National industry data reveals that inventory shrink cost U.S. retailers over $112 billion in a single year, and Walmart executives have publicly stated that the losses have reached an unacceptable level. This has forced the company to make difficult choices. In certain markets, particularly those with high crime rates or other significant operating costs, stores have been closed permanently, often with little advance warning to the community or the employees. When a Walmart closes, the impact is devastating and immediate. Hundreds of people lose their jobs, local government revenues plummet, and neighboring businesses in the same shopping plaza often fail soon after. The pressures on Walmart extend far beyond theft. The company is navigating a landscape of steadily increasing wages, soaring utility bills, and ballooning insurance premiums. The cost of securing its massive physical stores, from hiring security personnel to installing advanced surveillance systems, further erodes its famously thin profit margins. At the same time, its customer base, especially middle-income households, is exhibiting signs of financial stress. Shoppers are making fewer trips, buying less per visit, and increasingly shifting their purchases to the company's online platform to control spending. Walmart's strategic response has been a massive investment in automation, robotics, and AI-powered logistics. This pivot toward technology is designed to boost efficiency and protect long-term profitability, but it also signals a future with fewer physical stores and a leaner workforce. For many Americans, particularly older shoppers, this evolution feels like a personal loss. They describe their local Walmart not just as a store, but as a place of connection and routine in an increasingly unpredictable world. When their neighborhood supercenter closes, they lose more than convenience. They lose a sense of community and belonging. Walmart is not collapsed, but it is visibly tightening and retreating in ways that reveal a stark truth. When a corporation this powerful is forced to rethink its footprint, the forces at play are not temporary but structural, and the very center of gravity for thousands of American communities is beginning to shift.